Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Yesshift News Desk Edition. This time broadcasting on September 1st, 2025, which in the US is 9:0125. So, yeah, it's there have been quite a few posts about that, and it's quite the day. I don't really know what to say about 9:0125 other than what's already been said. You know, it was a landmark album for Yes. It was a way to keep the band alive, and of course, Owner of a Lonely Heart was a huge hit. And for some, it can be a bit of an annoyance that it's what Yes is most known for to some, but of course, it introduced lots of people to the great catalog. And 90125. I feel like Owner of a Lonely Heart is maybe the most different compared to the rest of the tracks on the album. Um, yeah, Dad and I talked extensively about that album, and Owner of a Lonely Heart was my favorite when I was a kid. So there you go. And yeah, 90125, great album, 9 tracks, zero filler, two sides. Uh, sorry, I did that wrong. 9 tracks, zero filler, one record, two sides, five band members. There you go, 90125. So there's quite a bit to talk about on this news episode. There's a huge news item that came out today regarding a super deluxe edition of Fly From Here Return Trip. And yes, it is specifically Return Trip, not the original. So we'll have some thoughts on that. Maybe this will be a group therapy session for those of us online. I don't know. But there are also some other things to touch on, like a few additions to the Cruise to the Edge lineup that got announced today. I don't know if they finished announcing all of them for today. There could be more for all I know. But yeah, there's that. And what Oliver Wakeman has been up to, and what he says is coming up, and what Rick Wakeman's been up to, and what he says it's coming up, and few other things. Bill Bruford, Pete Roth trio touring, and yeah, so there's quite a lot to cover. And what to begin with? So we're touching on things of the past month that have not been covered, at least not too much on recent episodes. You know, there's a decent amount of Roger Dean related news stuff touched upon yesterday since it was his birthday, so I figured talk about some of that there. But there is another bit of Roger Dean news that came out in relation to the upcoming Yes tour. So just opening up my document here where I have all that. So Roger Dean said, "We have yet to decide what the final version of the Prince will look like, but we have 20 artist proofs available for purchase at the live painting and Q&A this Wednesday, the 3rd of September at Trading Boundaries." And he's referring to these new fragile prints. And he says you can also get a first look at the new t-shirt designs, which will be coming soon. So that's kind of in conjunction with the upcoming Yes Fragile tour, part of the album series, kind of stirring up some buzz there. So that's really neat. And there's also some other talk about the upcoming tour. Jay Shellen posted on Facebook saying the countdown to our US Fragile album series tour is on. He posted this on the 21st of August, so a couple weeks ago now. "I'm extremely excited, performing Fragile in its entirety, along with a mixture of classics, hits, and surprises. It's going to be one for the books. Looking forward to getting together with you all out there again. Yes, fans like no other, the best fans." And Billy Sherwood also talked a bit about the upcoming Fragile tour. So both he and Jay were on separate recent interviews over on a YouTube channel called Brennan's Bootlegs. So really insightful interviews. Jay mentioned Fragile being sort of his intro to Yes, and Billy said that there are surprises in the non-fragile part of the set list that he doesn't want to spoil. So that does get me really curious. How surprising will the selections be? It could be like, I don't know, maybe a couple surprises is kind of what I'm expecting, just to temper my expectations. But yeah, they have that stuff under lock and key, and for a good reason. Like, you don't want to. I mean, I guess they kind of spoil part of the set if it's like the album's tour and they say what album they're doing. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what they end up playing. I already have my ticket for the upcoming tour, so I'm pretty much ready for that. And Billy also posted recently about passing a milestone recently. So he said, "Hard to fathom. It's 10 years. I'm now back in Yes. I never imagined in a million years the heartbreaking circumstances that would bring this about. That being the passing of my dear friend, mentor, and in several cases, bandmate Chris Squire. Upon his request, I found myself at this studio in the UK alongside my longtime friends and allies Steve Howe, Jeff Downs, John Davison, and the amazing Alan White, my drummer hero, who we also sadly lost far too soon." And he posted a pic and said, "This pic is from that first day of rehearsals for the tour. Mixed emotions is an understatement. I'm currently back in the UK preparing for our upcoming Yes Tour of America, shedding bass parts here in my makeshift studio. I'm looking forward to getting back on the road again, playing amazing Yes music, seeing all the incredible Yes fans, and pushing Yes forward into the future, just as Chris and Alan wanted. It's my honor to do so. I do not take the responsibility lightly, and so I'll be here getting my bleep together. Long live Yes." So very well said, Billy. Um, and in both of these, oh, I should also mention that Billy also, I saw that he commented on one of Miguel Bass's posts earlier today. So Miguel Bass put together this video, playing bass and asking people on socials the question, what is Chris Squire's harmonized Rickenbacker sound on Tormato made of? And Billy was one of the comments. Like, if you look under the post, he said, "Eventide had a pitch change feature. Left side pitched down ever so, and the right side the opposite, up slightly. It was commonly called a harmonizer. That's a big part of the sound, as per Chris when I asked him about. One of my favorite bass sounds of his. Great job on the video, nice playing." So that was pretty cool of Billy to chime in. But yeah, in going back to the couple recent Brennan's Bootleg channel interviews that I saw, both Jay and Billy each said that the new upcoming Yes album is about 85% done. And in Jay's interview, he said that that it'll probably be finished in quarter one, or it'll be released in quarter one or quarter two. So, sounds like within the first 6 months of 2026. I'm expecting a May release, similar to Mirror to the Sky. That's my prediction right there. It seemed like a good spot last time, so I don't know. It just feels logical that that's what they'll go with again this time around. But we'll see. And yeah, I'm really excited to see how the new album sounds. But yeah, both of these interviews were very insightful. Jay, similar to when we interviewed him, mentioned his early associations with Yes members, Tony Kaye, Peter Banks, and he said once again that there's been talk of the Badfinger material that he was on, perhaps doing a release of that, and to stay tuned. So it sounds like maybe that's still something that could happen, but you know, maybe there aren't any solid plans yet still, but I really hope that sees the light of day. Billy was also asked if, you know, Yes would ever dig up Relayer again. You know, he mentioned how, you know, with all the delays and stuff, it felt like there was sort of bad luck going on, like this vibe of bad luck with trying to do Relayer, and so they moved on from it. And he said that it could pop up again someday. And you know, I'm not getting my hopes up too high because you never know, but I do really hope that um you know, I don't even know if hope is the right word since I'm not expecting it too much, but it would be nice if Relayer does get dug up in the live setting. You know, the way Billy was talking about it, it sounds like they were ready. You know, they had Sound Chaser, and but yeah, you know, always in motion is the future, as Master Yoda from Star Wars says. So looking back on this document, there was also Brennan's Bootlegs also had a recent interview with Tom Brislin. So he touched a bit about Yes there as well, you know, told the owner of Only Heart story again, where he had to be the one to convince Steve Howe to that they should include it in the set and all that. So yeah, really cool interviews to see. Yes Music Podcast also had a recent interview with Steve Howe, mainly focused on, you know, Kevin was talking with Steve about the upcoming reissues of Natural Timbre and uh, Portraits of Bob Dylan, which come out September 12th. And we're going to talk about those on the show. You know, whether we get Steve Howe this time around or not, we're still going to talk about those reissues. So, you know, a lot to say about those. I'm sure when Dad and I, you know, get on and do that. And Dad will make his return trip to the show mid September after you know, he's seeing some of the family for a bit, and then we'll be back in the groove with things together. But in the meantime, we have this, and hopefully this has been decent so far. All right, so I guess now I should probably get into the elephant in the room. So let's talk about the Fly From Here Return Trip Super Deluxe Edition. So here is the press release, or I guess the post that's on social media, and I believe this is how it reads on the Yes World site as well. But here's what it says. Yes announced the new Super Deluxe Edition release of their 2018 album, Fly From Here Return Trip. Yes's alternative take on their Fly From Here opus of 2011, to be released 28th of November 2025. A pre-order now, and it lists the cherry red link. And then it says these 2025 versions include a 1 CD, 2 LP in a tip on sleeve, and an exclusive Super Deluxe Edition Blu-ray featuring a new Atmos mix by Richard Whittaker. The vinyl and CD have an exclusive instrumental mix of Fly From Here as a bonus track. Yes recorded the original version of Fly From Here during the breaks in touring in 2010 and 2011, during which they enlisted former Yes frontman Trevor Horn as producer. The alternative version of the album, titled Fly From Here Return Trip, features the classic drama era lineup, who were reunited in 2018 to create a new version featuring all new vocals from Trevor Horn plus new instrumental parts, alongside a more organic mix highlighting Chris Squire's unique voice and bass contributions, as well as additional parts from Steve Howe and Jeff Downs. The original album was, and it's referring to Return Trip at this point, was released on the 25th of March 2018 during the band's 50th anniversary tour and includes the 6-part title track, the full version of Hour of Need, and album outtake Don't Take No for an Answer. So I woke up to this news. I literally woke up, went on my phone, opened Facebook, and I saw the post. And for a moment, I got excited because I thought, are they actually doing it? Because, Dad and I have talked on the show about how they should re release the 2011 version, the one with Benoit David on vocals, and maybe even package that together with Return Trip in a sort of ultimate collection type thing. And so I wondered if they were actually doing it. And then as I read the post, my excitement deflated and was just disappeared, unfortunately. And that's a really bad feeling right there. And a huge contrast to 2019 when I woke up, went online, and saw the news of From a Page being released. And that featured the lineup that had Benoit David and Oliver Wakeman. And that was an incredible EP, great music on that. And it included Live from Leon as well. So even though I feel like From a Page is, to me, the definitive showcase of Benoit and Yes, and Oliver and Yes as well, I still would like the 2011 Benoit David version of Fly From Here to be as widely available as the Return Trip version. And I don't know what's keeping that from happening. I've seen people point out that Fly From Here was on Frontiers Music, and so was Heaven and Earth, and neither of those have been reissued or are officially on streaming. And so I do wonder if there's sort of a rights thing going on. But setting that aside, I don't know why one would announce a reissue of Return Trip before ever announcing a reissue of the 2011 original version of that album of Fly From Here. It's only been 7 years since Return Trip came out, and it's like, why now? Why I don't understand. Just I don't know. And to see that there was all this work that went into including these 2025 versions of the tracks, it's why can't that effort go to the 2011 version as well? And I don't know that they would try this, but I do wonder if maybe there could be a 2011 Fly From Here super deluxe edition or whatever further down the line. But if that is the case, and personally I don't think that is the case, I don't think that's being planned behind the scenes. I could be wrong, but if that were the case, then why not release that first, and then 2018, or release them all as one thing? I can understand releasing them separately so that it's not as expensive of a product, perhaps, for the consumer. And but I don't know. I looked at the Facebook post earlier, and it did get some likes and love reactions, but there were also lots of comments pretty much echoing the same thing of why not include the Benoit David version. And I scrolled through a bunch of these comments, and out of the ones I saw like only one comment that was really excited about this reissue of Return Trip. So it kind of feels like self-sabotage doing this. And yeah, like I don't know. It's I mean, they could have at least done the bare minimum. And again, this is, me just speculating. I don't know if there are any rights issues preventing any of this, but you would think that for something like this, the bare minimum would be to at least include I don't know, a CD of the 2011 version. It'd be nice if you include updated remixes of the Benoit version that, still include him. I saw one of our followers, Ian Barber, suggests that maybe it'd be nice to remix those tracks so that Chris's vocals are a bit more in front. So, have a couple versions of the Benoit David release. Um, and and so I don't know. It just feels like a no-brainer to re-release the 2011 version. And if people pick up the deluxe version and it has that version on there, and people's praise all around is like, yeah, I love that it included the 2011 version, then maybe they could be like, oh, well, maybe there's a market for this. Maybe we could re-release the 2011 version on vinyl as well, and people will flock to that. So I I don't know. I'm trying to. I don't know if like everything I'm saying is coming out as coherently as I sort of pre-planned it in my head. It feels very puzzling that they would do this, like have a reissue of Return Trip before ever having a reissue of the original Fly From Here from 2011. It's disheartening, honestly. I don't know. Um and I'm very curious what the sales for this reissue of Return Trip are gonna be like. Could it suffer because it doesn't have the 2011 version? Is everyone gonna read the fine print and see that oh, this doesn't include the Benoit David one? In that post, they kind of tiptoe around talking further about the 2011 version. There's no mention of Benoit David. There's no mention of Oliver Wakeman. Maybe he could be mentioned in the listing. I'd have to check, but it doesn't feel right. So I don't know. As you can tell, I'm not excited about this reissue. If it had the 2011 version, it would be an instant buy from me, to show support for that version. And and like I've said, and I think Dad as well, we enjoy both versions, but they should both be equally available. So I guess oh, I see there are a couple people tuning in. Rick DeSarl and Ron Jansen is tuning in from south of the Netherlands. Oh, Rick says something is fishy, maybe a Buggles GoFundMe deal. Yeah. I don't know if that's the motivation behind it, but Return Trip, I do think that it is, part of the reason for putting that out in 2018 for the 50th anniversary. Part of the reason was to have a sort of reunion of the drama lineup after Chris's passing, and as a tribute to Chris. I do think that that is a a reason, that is a motivation that's true. But it could also be true that Return Trip is a bit of a vanity project. Trevor Horn tried getting Benoit to sing uh, how he wanted, for the 2011 album, and that is why From a Page to me is the definitive Benoit David Yes album. He's not trying to sing like Trevor Horn, and Benoit did great on that 2011 version, but Trevor Horn, I think, has even said he wasn't like 100% happy. So it does, it is a curiosity of like a alternate universe thing of what if it has the whole drama lineup. But it can be true that it can be both a tribute and a vanity project, those both being the thing back when it came out in 2018. But now re-releasing it in 2025, I'm have a huge hovering question mark over my head. Like, why just this version and why now? So I don't know. And this does make me think that, we've heard talk here and there that there might be a re-release of Magnification on the way. There's been work on that. And so the announcement of this return trip reissue coming out in late November tells me that Magnification won't be in a toward the end of the year release. We won't be seeing that in 2025 if it is still coming out. I expect now it'll probably be 2026, which I guess they could tie into the 15th anniversary of the album. I'm more excited for that personally, a Magnification re-release. And yeah, I don't know. I've talked in circles already. I've already conveyed my my reaction to this announcement. So I guess that's that, and people will comment, and we'll just have to see how the sales are. I'm sure we will not get specific numbers of how well it does. So but I don't. It's a very curious thing. That's just, yeah. I don't know what else to say about it. So let's see what other news items we have to talk about here. Well, on the topic of Trevor Horn, there was a recent announcement that said Trevor and his band are playing an exclusive run of UK tour dates with a new career-spanning Video Killed the Radio Star live show this December, kicking off in Newcastle before heading to Manchester and then London. Interesting. I'll be curious to see how those shows turn out. And you expect Video Killed the Radio Star to, of course, be part of it, but it makes you wonder, like, what else could be part of it. So I guess we'll see. Now, speaking of Oliver Wakeman, he's been posting a lot of really cool memorabilia recently. I encourage people to go to the Oliver Wakeman Facebook page and see what he's been posting. But before I mention some of the things he's been sharing, he also did mention what he's been up to lately. He said, "I've been working very hard with Carl Groom on pulling together a couple of reissue albums for next year, which I think will be pretty special. As well as the music work, I've also been sorting out a return to the stage for various types of shows for next year. One of these will be a tour with my band. The band posters will feature this great logo designed by the great Rodney Matthews. More news to come over the next few months, hopefully." And he also responded to someone else in one of the comments on one of his posts, echoing some of those same things. But let me make sure that I don't leave anything out here. So he's been doing lots of sessions. Let's see, he mentioned the reissues. He's working on the writing and production of 2 new solo records. This is in response, publicly on Facebook on his page, in response to a comment from Paul Cronin asking what he's been up to. And he also says, working on a piece of music for Rodney Matthews' new book, and then working on his next album project. A few other things, but plenty to keep me busy. And he is also doing something with his dad, Rick, next year, but I'll get to that in a bit after getting through all these other things. So over on his page, he posted a backstage tour sticker from the ABWH tour. He said, "My brother Adam and I went to the US with Dad for a few weeks and had a great time on the road. It was also the tour where Tony Levin got sick, and I ended up watching Steve Howe in the studio put his guitar parts down for the single version of I'm Alive." Now, I believe that's the full band version. So that's what those parts ended up on, I believe. And he also He shared a different photo playing on a grand piano, saying, I was very fortunate to be allowed to play Agatha Christie's Steinway Grand last week when I visited her home, Greenway House, which is run by the National Trust. Many will know her from her many crime novels, including Death on the Nile and Murder on the Orient Express. A beautiful piano to play, although a few other visitors thought I was working there and being paid to entertain the visitors. So yeah, and these posts are all within the past month, by the way. So from different points. He also shared a picture from backstage at a Them Crooked Vultures show in Germany, which Chris and Scotty Squire and himself were invited to while on a Yes European tour. He said, it was great to meet John Paul Jones and get a photo of us all together. Interesting to see my The Lord of the Rings inspired Legolas hairstyle for that night too. And Oliver also shared a poster from the full band tour, which went around the UK in support of the Ravens and Lullabies album, his album, and again signed by everyone. The band included members of Threshold, the legendary guitarist Gordon Giltrap, whom we actually had on the show a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, and members who would go on to play with 10cc and The Sweet, he continues. And then another photo that he shared was from a day off in Boston where Alan White showed him around. And he said, knowing I was a huge fan of the TV show Cheers and Frasier, he took me to the location of the outside bar shots, and then we went to the replica bar where we were both recognized and given honorary Cheers staff t-shirts by the staff. A great day. I'm sure that must have been an amazing moment. And another thing he shared, he said, I was going through some vinyl this morning and found I have a sealed and unopened vinyl of the original Yes in the Present live record. And he showed it in a picture along with his opened and played version. And let me see if there are any comments. No, not yet. So he also said in a different post, while on the 2009 European Yes Tour, Chris Squire, Chris's wife Scotty, and I went to a Them Crooked Vultures show and met up with John Paul Jones and Dave Grohl. I recently posted the picture of us with John, but I've also managed to find the picture of Chris, Dave, and myself. It was a great show, and I spent some time after the show chatting to Dave, which was cool. And in another post, he said, a few years ago, my good friend and guitarist David Mark Pierce recorded an album with Ronnie Monroe called Monroe's Thunder. Very good it is, too. Dave asked me to play on the record, which I was delighted to do. I also put together the artwork and logo for the record. There were a limited run of t-shirts made. I was grateful to get one of these featuring the logo I created. And he also posted a throwback pic to 2016 when his dad, Rick, asked him to perform King Arthur with him at the O2 in London, which was also happened to be on Father's Day. He says, Marillion were playing on the same bill just before us. I'm a big Marillion fan and have met the guys on numerous occasions. And the photo was from Soundcheck during the occasion. And he also shared some photos from the Mile of Roses charity concert, which he and his wife organized last year. He says, I was very honored that my dad, Rick Wakeman, and Carrie Martin and Gordon Giltrap, unable to tag for some reason, offered to perform as well to help us raise money for the theater and a school for children with special needs, with a charity auction featuring wonderful items such as amazing artworks by Rodney Matthews, a prototype guitar from Vintage Guitars, and signed items from John Cleese. We raised over £15,000, an amazing night full of laughter. Reading, I'm not quite done yet, but reading all these, Oliver Wakeman really could write a book about his experiences with all these different shows and bands and tours. I would love to read a book written by him. I think that would be really nice. He also says he posted a photograph from when he was in Yes. He says, we were on a US tour and I was honored to meet and hang out with Patrick Moraz. Here's a photo of Alan, myself, and Patrick after a show. Had such a great time on those tours, performing and meeting so many people. Happy days. I'll go ahead and show that picture. Actually, I think I have it open. Is it this one? All right, give me a moment and I'll show the picture. But there's also a little bit of Patrick news to share. So, yeah, I'm pretty much just stalling until I can get this in the correct tab. All right, now I'll be able to share the photo. Let's see, share screen. And okay, it's this one. There we go. There's Alan, Patrick, and Oliver. That's a really neat photo there. And we talked a little bit about Patrick when we had Anne and Tom from Progstock on our show recently, and you know how unfortunately Patrick couldn't make it to Progstock this year. But you know, before getting back to the Oliver stuff, I do want to mention that Patrick recorded, and this is posted on the Moog Foundation YouTube channel. He video recorded, you know, himself talking about Bob Moog and how he first met him in May 1975. So sounds like around the time of the QPR concert, you know, that same month anyway, and how they became friends. And so yeah, really nice that they got him to talk about that. Really great. So I also want to mention Michael Franklin said that there are a couple Mraz things to expect. Let's see. 3 days or so ago, he said, many new projects in the works at Solar Music. Patrick Mraz, and he lists a few other things, you know, a bunch of things, including John Anderson's 1000 Hands Chapter 2 as well. You know, as a reminder, Michael Franklin was a producer on 1000 Hands Chapter 1, and we had him on the show a couple of times. So, yeah, it sounds like there's some Patrick-related stuff in the works. And he also recently mentioned on August 15th that it was the anniversary of the Rick Wakeman album Classic Tracks, and that the CD and download would be returning to Solar Music this fall. So, yeah, very interesting stuff. But getting back to Oliver, let's see, where was I? Okay, so Oliver also shared a picture of himself on stage, and he surmised that it might have been from one of the full band tours he did with Gordon Giltrap. It's a really cool looking photo. He also mentioned, you know, he was sorting his vinyl collection, and one of the things that he found was a Yes record, a blue vinyl 12-inch single edition of Wondrous Stories with parallels on the B-side, signed by, it looks like most of the lineup except for Chris. And he said, I never got to perform this with a band, but did do a piano and guitar instrumental version on my tours with Gordon Giltrap. And he also, at a later point, shared his 10-inch version of the Brother of Mine single with a quote, great track, Vultures in the City on the B-side, which in my opinion should have been on the full album. I also have a mini 3.5-inch CD single version where they made a printing error and missed off John's name on the disc. This was during the ABWH period. And it's signed by the whole band, you know, Anderson, Bruford, Wakeman, Howe. And he also shared a photograph from a Yes tour where he's standing in front of this huge poster that shows the lineup. And he says this was in Zacatecas in Mexico for a one-off concert I did when I was with Yes. Okay, so I guess this was during his period with Yes, but maybe not around a Yes concert. Okay, well, so there you go. Yeah, I love that Oliver is sharing all this really neat stuff, and very much looking forward to all the projects he has in the works. So let's check up on Rick Wakeman. So Rick shared a photo of his key setup and said prog creation and progress. And he also recently released a podcast episode, the myths and legends of Rick Wakeman. The most recent episode was a tribute to Dave Cousins, his bandmate from Straubs. Dave, of course, passed away earlier this summer. And Rick's podcast, each episode is recorded a fair amount in advance. So, of course, they didn't have a Dave Cousins episode ready around the time that he passed, but it was nice that he still managed to get one made. And it was a good half hour and reminiscing about what was like in Straubs, and how there's this misconception that he left Straubs for Yes. So from the way he remembers it, it sounds like he left Straubs and then was courted by Yes. So a very thin distinction, but an important one, I suppose. And saying all these nice things about Dave and how Straubs might have been the first proper folk rock group, in his words. That's what Rick said. And he also talked about that performance where Dave sang Glimpse of Heaven and Rick was playing, and that video that he shared shortly after Dave's passing. And so I'm really glad he put that episode out, and glad that we were able to have a chat with Dave when he was still around, when that last Straubs album came out. Rick also posted this video that was basically an autumnal roundup, and he referenced the recently canceled Strictly Rick Wakeman tour that happened because of a surgery that needed to get done. And he said that there's a show in Vietnam that also got canceled as a result, but that would be postponed to, so it was going to be in the US, the East Coast. And in this video, it sounds like the US dates have been postponed to March of 2026, but that they might be different. Haley is busy around that time. So instead of her singing, it's going to be a Wakeman and Son type thing, with Oliver Wakeman joining Rick. And if I remember correctly, Rick said that they've never really done a tour together before. They've collaborated at certain shows, but not really on this scale, I don't think. So that should be interesting to say. And hey, my request, can you please add some West Coast dates for this thing? Do another leg, have both Rick and Oliver. I think that'd be really cool. And let's see. In October, there will be the release of his Melancholia album, as well as some UK dates. And in December, there's I believe that's when the Saving Strays stuff is. And he said April and May might be around the time when his album Return to the Red Planet will come out. And he also said he's planning a monster Christmas tour for next year. And he wants to do 2 performances of New Gospels, which is now known as Christus, with his friend Alfie Boe. Now, the way he mentioned this, I wasn't quite clear on whether that would be part of those Christmas tour plans or if it would be something separate. But it's nice to see that Rick still has some things that he wants to do. He's still pretty busy, so that's really nice. Bill Bruford has also been busy. Of course, within the past year or so, he came out of retirement with the Pete Roth Trio, and his YouTube channel has been populated by all sorts of stuff. I saw that a few days ago. Promo video, I suppose, of Yours Is No Disgrace from those early days was posted on there. And Bill has these really silly looking sunglasses. And it's includes imagery of soldiers. So I think maybe I have seen this version before with the soldiers imagery. And there was also a few weeks ago, there was a little half-minute trailer for, I guess it was an album visualizer for the Bruford album One of a Kind. Like the post said, the album One of a Kind by the band Bruford is uploaded in its entirety as a visualizer. It's one of a handful of albums Bill helped create that has legs beyond fashion and marketing budgets. In the description, he lists a few others that have that all important special emotional resonance for him. Video premieres on August 8th, and I'm wondering if I missed this video, because I do see a playlist of One of a Kind on his channel, but not just one video that has the full album. And is the visualizer just an image of the album cover, or is it more than that? So I don't know. Maybe I missed this, and I just can't find it now. But Bill continued posting on his socials saying the next UK chance to see the Pete Roth Trio featuring Bill on drums will be at the Lowestoft Jazz Weekend at East Coast College on Friday, the 5th of September, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. Details and tickets available, and full details on the upcoming autumn European UK 2025 tour will be here soon. And lo and behold, we have since gotten that news. So Pete Roth Trio featuring Bill Bruford takes to the road throughout Europe this autumn. Whole band completely looking forward to it. Can't wait to get going and hopes to see you at one of the 28 cities below. Tickets and details at PeteRothTrio.com. And let me go ahead and show you the graphic that has all the tour dates for that. I just realized I have that tab open as well. Let's see, share tab. And there we go. So it looks like from September 5th to December 6th, there are quite a good amount of dates. Some of them in the UK, some in other places in Europe like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Germany, Poland, the Czech Republic, Austria, and Italy. So yeah, I'm really glad that Bill is keeping busy and doing something that he's really enjoying. I know lots of people would probably love for him to play with Yes or play some King Crimson stuff again, or even Earthworks, but I quite like that he's challenging himself with something newer. And of course, the trio is going to be on Cruise to the Edge. And today there were announcements of a few more additions to the Cruise to the Edge lineup. One of them being Dave Kersner and Friends. So it's basically a tradition at this point, having Dave Kersner on the cruise. And I guess we'll see if Billy joins him again for that. They also announced Kairos, a really incredible band. I remember seeing one of their concerts in one of the Progstock live streams. I believe it was Progstock, and they were great. And then this one I'm not familiar with, Jane Getter Premonition. So I wonder what they sound like. But yeah, that's also on the cruise. And who knows, maybe there are more to come. I guess we'll see if more get added to this. Last Saturday, August 30th, was Progapalooza, which we talked about with John Perez, drummer of Close to the Yes USA, recently. And it featured tribute bands to Led Zeppelin, the Led Zeppelin project, Schizoid Man, tribute to King Crimson, and Clockwork Angels, tribute to Rush, and of course, Close to the Yes themselves. And there's a video that's up, and the set list for the Close to the Yes portion included, they opened with Firebird Suite before going into Yours Is No Disgrace, and then Heart of the Sunrise, and then Close to the Edge, which, because of where the camera and I guess the mics were, there are some things that um you don't really hear much of with the sound of the performance of Close to the Edge, which I found fascinating. And You and I, and once they put that, I thought, okay, they're gonna play the whole album and have Siberian True, and lo and behold, they did. The closing of Siberian True was different from what I'm used to for live versions that Yes have done, where they sort of escalate toward the end instead of winding down as the band did here. And then they played Owner of a Lonely Heart and closed with Roundabout. So a set list of classics, you could say. And I'm sure it was a really fun night seeing them and the other bands together, back to back. It's like having music from all those different bands. It's like, what more could you ask for? And this is also in the sphere of prog. So Asia featuring John Payne. So a few weeks ago, there's this whole thing where, Francis Dunnery had become the new guitarist of Asia featuring John Payne. And I guess they played at least one show together. And then afterward, it was decided that, I guess they all realized that some of Steve Howe's guitar parts for Asia are too complicated for maybe Francis's style, and even he admitted as much as well. And he and John Payne each had separate Facebook posts, and it seems like things are, that they're on good terms and whatnot. It's just kind of strange to me that this went this far before they decided after a show that okay, so maybe Francis, maybe we need different guitars for Asia featuring John Payne. And they went with Jeff Coleman and have since done a couple shows in Texas, which, hey, Close to the S was also in Texas. Go figure. But yeah, so it's just a strange thing to happen. And more after those first couple shows with Jeff Coleman, I believe, was when John Payne posted, we would like your help, addressing the fans of the band, as well as a new album in 2026. We want to significantly update our set list. At the moment, our set is 50-50 split with 80s Asia and my period in the band. Going forward in 2026, we're only going to play 2 songs from the first album and the rest from my album releases with Asia. What songs would you like to hear in our set? Thanks, John Payne. Great. And thinking about it now, this is like, okay, so there are only going to be 2 Steve Howe Asia songs. So it's like, could they not have kept Francis if they were going to go with a set list that's significantly not Steve Howe Asia? Like, or maybe they came up with this idea later. I don't know. It's just Okay, how long has my mic been muted? Let me look at the video feed and go back and see when that happened. Okay, I'm gonna need to get on my phone and get on YouTube and see where exactly that happened. Okay, so I talked about the cruise. Okay, talk about John Payne. Okay, so that's where it cut off. And I don't know if I'm going to keep this bit in, or I might just keep it. I don't know. We'll see what happens if I edit this and repost it or whatever. But yeah, it is kind of silly that I don't know if they came up with this idea later, but it is cool that the set list is diversifying. You know, if there's the Jeff Downs Asia focusing on the early Asia stuff, then you might as well have John Payne's Asia focus on the John Payne Asia legacy, because that's its own thing that should be honored as well. And so later on, John Payne posted a PS, great suggestions so far. Oh, make a list of the most popular. Your input counts. Keep them coming. List 15 songs if you get time. Much appreciated. So that's really exciting. Also, almost forgot to mention Kansas have had a guitarist Scott Bernard fill in for Rich Williams now and then, but now Scott is a permanent guitarist in the band, and Rich Williams is still a member of the band, but has said that he's slowing down a bit. So, Kansas is still very much chugging along. And lastly, also in the world of prog, Steve Hackett says, I would like to take this opportunity to let you know of the changes ahead and welcome the new additions to my band. Lale Larson, who joins us in 2026 and takes over the demanding role on keyboards previously mastered by my old friend Roger, who will be leaving us at the end of the year to pursue other interests. Felix Lehrman on drums and percussion, who has previously played with me on 2 tours this year and will now take a more permanent position from next year. Nick DiVirgilio will take the drum seat for my October-November 2025 North American tour. My huge thanks also to Craig Blundell, who provided us with his exceptional talents on drums since 2019. I'm very happy to say that he is continuing to record with us. Together, Lale and Felix will join my existing longtime friends and musical collaborators, Rob Townsend, Jonas Reingold, and Nad Sylvan for 2026 and beyond. I'm really excited about going forward with this great band and continuing the legacy of the music of Genesis together with my own solo material, both of which never fail to inspire me. Warmest wishes, Steve. And new tour dates for 2026 to be announced September 8th and 15th at hackettsongs.com. All right, so I think that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Lots of yes and prog-filled news, and we got it all in an hour. So follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube. Write to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. More broadcasts to come in the near future, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.